It's tough, but it can be so overwhelming to live right.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's
100%.
because we have grown or been brought up in a society that has, I don't know, had a focus on sustenance, like just volume.
Oh yeah.
You need food, and here's your food versus quality, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a quantity. So why don't I make an introduction? We just go to talk.
Okay,
Just have
that's
some
cool.
questions
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
No, I'm good.
And just so, hey everybody, John Rothwell, nurse practitioner with Island Direct Primary Care. I'm here with Danny, our business development manager, and Dr. Jessica Beal.
Thank you, Beal.
Beal, yeah, from Hobbs Pharmacy. And so welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Super excited to have you. I asked Danica, what are you going to ask her this week? And for me, I just want to say thank you because I follow you on social media, whether it's on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and the content that you provide is amazing.
Thank you.
And so, one, I just wanted to kind of almost pick your brain and be like, okay, what's your why? Like, we all kind of have our why. And so what's your why? When you picked up your part, you're a pharmacist. You're not a medical doctor. You're not a doctor of osteopathic medicine. You're not a chiropractor or physician. You're not an NP or PA. You're a doctor of pharmacy. Or
Yeah.
it's
PharmD.
it's PharmD,
Yeah,
right?
PharmD.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have the education, but yet there's this wellness desire that you have that you're providing the community, right? We're the same community. It's
Yeah.
really functionally medicine driven, at least from my perspective. And so I love it. So kind of give us a little background of that story of why you're there.
So I actually went to college, undergrad. I played sports my whole entire life. And so I've been super active and always trying to figure out, I was a good athlete. Okay, I was pretty good. And
She was better than good. Don't let her fool you.
So I went to, and I was always one that like type A, worked hard, and trying to figure out what can I do to take my game to the next level. Went to college, same thing, dealt with an eating disorder in college, being told that I needed to be smaller in order to be better. And I truthfully lost about 35, 40 pounds in college because of my coach. And so trying to heal from that took a lot. In the same time, I actually, in undergrad, went and started working at a natural pharmacy.
Okay.
So we did compounding only, and we had an herbalist on staff and a naturopath, which really got me into how to heal, how to treat things, how the world didn't need prescription medicine to help. And I spent 2.5 years there, which was eye-opening, kind of drove me into pharmacy. But I went into pharmacy with the thought of I've always wanted to get back into a world like that, doing compounding, working with people on their health. How can we improve just daily life? So I think a tie between sports and an athletic background, dealing and healing from an eating disorder, and then background in pharmacy just has kind of collided into what it is today, I guess, would be my best description.
Awesome.
So,
before I let you ask a question, one thing I like about the functional medicine community, especially on the provider side, whether you're, making compounded meds or you're, actually making the recommendations or you're helping your patients, guiding them or helping them navigate that world. You just made yourself so vulnerable and you haven't even met everybody here, right? And talking about, just talking about an eating disorder. I lived in the hospital for a year. I have my own vulnerabilities, and I share with my patients as well. And so thank you for that because, we're human, right? And I think sometimes healthcare professionals kind of get elevated to this, to this level of where, they have everything together.
yeah.
And reality is we have to focus our own physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial wellness. And it is a daily thing, even for us.
Yeah, definitely. So. I feel like that. And I feel like if I'm not healthy, I can't serve my patients well. And, it took me a long time to be able to even say that like I had an eating disorder or I struggled with, being burned out at points and just different things and learning how important like rest was and being able to say no so that I could show up for people, myself and for others at the right time was it took years to learn that. And I was always, like I said, type A that was like go do more, you can't say no. So and being able to share that journey with people. And I feel like I will be 100% honest with you, and my husband will agree, I was the world's worst writer. Like, I'm awful. Mistype, everything goes everywhere. And so, but it really felt like there was a lot of stuff in my head I wanted to share with other people. And finally, one day I was just like, you know what? I have to get it out. And if I don't do it now, I'll regret it. And so I finally just one day said, I'm going to post every day, 5 days a week, every day, and see how it goes. And it's been eye-opening of people that are like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for sharing that. And I didn't know. And like some of it I haven't come out and said, I've dealt with an eating disorder and this is how this goes. Or I've dealt with, overwhelming stress and perfectionism and stuff like that. But I feel like I try and convey things I've done, like anxiety and stuff like that, on how to do breathing and meditation that has really helped with me.
So for those that are wondering, what is your Instagram, Facebook handle? Where can people find the information?
So my Facebook is Jessica Beal -Stahl, STAHL, and then my Instagram is Jess B, I think it's _RX, and that's my Instagram.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So I noticed that your Instagram, like you said, is very informational, has a lot of content. Is there something that inspires you every day to pick this certain topic? Does it stem from, like you said, your personal experience?
Some of it comes from just being in the pharmacy every day and questions I get that I feel like I get patients ask me time and time again. Sometimes it's what can I do to help with sleep? And I'll have 2 patients ask me in a week and it will be like, oh, maybe I need to speak a little bit more on sleep. Sometimes it's stuff that I've been working through. A lot of times it's articles I've read that really trigger, hey, this would be helpful if I can break it down to other people and just give them a tad bit of information. Sometimes a little bit more than you would in just a blurb, but try and keep it on a very simple level that most people can understand. But it kind of comes from a lot of different places. Sometimes people will Instagram me, hey, can you talk about this? And it'll come up, and I honestly don't plan them. I have a bunch that I have written, but I don't plan like tomorrow I'm going to post this one. So it's kind of natural a little bit in what people ask.
So Miss Ryder, this is my social media person.
Really?
So well, and for those of you guys who don't know, so Danny went to Stetson, and so she was a college athlete as well.
Okay.
So I guess we're all college athletes here.
Yeah, that's
I
really
played
cool.
college rugby, and so Danny was kind of brought on for a lot of different reasons, from marketing and sales perspective. But she has this desire to help others, right? And so I'm constantly feeding her integrative and alternative things, and then she's finding just different other sources to help her drive content that we kind of discuss about, because as a provider here, finding that time to write, like you mentioned, is so difficult.
Sure.
And in Island Direct Primary Care has been growing. I mean, we're a membership-based practice. We're 400 patients, and so we're looking at expanding now. So it's gets kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And part of that is really, I think, has to do with working with pharmacists who understand that there's something more than traditional healthcare out there, because it's not a traditional model. Sure, direct primary care practice, some do traditional, model in medicine. Some are more integrative. I kind of fall in that realm, more integrative. Yeah. Some are strictly functional medicine. Yeah. And so it really just kind of depends, where your patients kind of find a home and that's right for them. Yeah. And so for me, the fact that you guys compound is awesome. Yeah. And so what can you tell the audience about compounding versus traditional manufacturing? Okay. And let's focus on something that maybe the thyroid, right? Okay. So that, at least my patients, I do a lot of compounding with their thyroid medicine, and so we'll kind of maybe use that as an example.
Okay. So compounding in general, I kind of equate it when I'm explaining it to patients is kind of like baking. So we have a recipe, and it's what you need. So this is very customized to every patient, based on your doses, labs, symptoms, whatever. And it can come, we make it in the lab. We have a full pharmacy compounding lab. We get it from certified manufacturers of raw ingredients. So you get bulk powders, pure bulk powders, no colors, no fillers, no nothing. And then we actually make it in the lab based on your prescription. So some of the benefits with compounding we found is you can get obviously customized doses, customized forms. So some people can't swallow capsules. You can make it in a liquid. You can do a troche. It gives you a lot of customization for the patient. So we do thyroid, a lot of hormone replacement therapy, probably a lot of veterinary stuff is probably my number 2 thing that we will compound from. I've had iguanas to horses, we've had pigs, we had monkeys, dogs and cats obviously, but we've had everything come in. Sometimes they bring them in.
So interesting, because medical doctors and veterinarian doctors, I mean, not the same thing,
Correct.
right? I mean, even though we take some fundamental stuff, but from a pharmacy perspective, I mean, I know like, I think my dog was prescribed tramadol, for an injury or whatever.
Of course.
I'm like going, okay, well, or Cipro or some kind of antibiotic. That's, how do you manage all of that? I mean,
there are books, there are reference books that we have. I mean, I will admit, I pulled out the reference book the other day when we had a diabetic monkey. Diabetic monkey.
And she's getting into sweets. Someone's eating all the cake.
Too much sweet. But so we do have reference books that gives you dosing guidelines on how to make stuff, how to flavor stuff that you can't have. Obviously, like dogs can't have xylitol and artificial sweetener. So you have to be careful with some animals can't have certain flavorings, they can't have certain things, but it definitely keeps you on your toes. So yeah, but compounding is definitely allows a lot of flexibility. Versus commercial, obviously the manufacturer makes it in bulk. You get it in a set dose, a set container size, whatever you needed. In large quantities, we make them in very individual quantities. We do send all of the products off we potency test stuff so that we do know that our process and our products are within range, the same range that they allow for generic manufacturers, which is 10%.
10%,
So we do send that off. So some compounding pharmacies don't. So it's one of those things you do want to ask if you're looking for a compounding pharmacy. Do they potency test their products? We don't potency test every product, but we do spot test and and do batches and stuff. So to make sure that we do have a consistent product that's always going out, because like you said, in thyroid cases, small it's a minute amount you're getting, so small difference is going to make a huge difference in the world to those patients and how they feel.
Yes, and we've run into that just with the change in pharmacy, or thyroid extract, which has T3, T2, I think there's a little bit of T1 in it too, but versus just traditional T3, powder, and the weight going from a microgram to milligram is, just, even though you try to match the two up, it doesn't match up evenly, and it's not the same thing. And so, you really have to, as a provider, have a relationship with, the pharmacist and be able to, call them, talk to them, and start building that relationship like what we're doing now, right? And it's just kind of building that because, one, I think when we talk about, collaborating with other providers, I think oftentimes we leave out the pharmacist and we don't bring them in, and we should, right? When you're in the hospital, it's real easy, but when you're outside of that and you're in the community, and I think, people get so comfortable using mainstream pharmacies and they forget that the independent pharmacists actually have an opportunity to provide that individualized care. And that's worth something. I understand that they think they might be getting a better deal, and I'm not a big PBM supporter, so I'm just like going, really? They're going to make me go to Walgreens to save you $1 when I can get you better service and better care by sending you to the local independent pharmacy? And
I feel like we've had the same staff for pharmacist. I've been there 13 years. Lee, my other pharmacist, has been there. I don't know if you count the first time he was there. He was there before me, and then he left for a little bit, and then he came back. But he's been there 10 years plus. Eric, who owns it, 25 years. Mark obviously owned it since he was there with his dad, and then we just brought in a new pharmacist, Allie, who came from Target, but she's been a pharmacist for 13 years also.
Okay.
But you have the same core. So I can sit there and look at a patient, and I'm like, oh, they're on this med, they're on this. Like, I know my patients,
Mm-hmm.
and we really take pride in that. Where I feel like when you go to chains, often you have floaters and people coming in and they don't know the difference. So if I see a script come in that doesn't look right or something's funky, I know, like, hey, this isn't what they're normally taking, or something's changed. You call the patient, you call the provider. So that is one of the things I think I love about being an independent pharmacist. And we do have a large staff of pharmacists, so
right.
You'll often have more than one of us there at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get the time to come out, and I've spent an hour with a patient, organizing meds or talking through what's going on, doing supplement recommendations. But you get an opportunity where it's not just, we have no metrics. We're not trying to meet metrics. We are trying to take care of patients. So being able to sit and spend the time with, how do you put on a Libre? How do you take your new medicine? How do you inject insulin? It's nice to be able to have that time to spend with the patients.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. Dr. Nolan, nurse practitioner, has been here since November. Before that, she was here as a registered nurse, and she did clinical rotations here as a nurse practitioner. So we're kind of doing the same kind of thing of just trying to, kind of bring them through and changing the way they think, and that there is a model of care that's focused on the patient. And so we do a lot of that teaching that you're talking about, and it's not just quickly done because we got to have a certain number of patients
in and out.
And so we'll sit there, whether it's teach them how to inject insulin or their testosterone, those kind of things. We spend an hour with our patients in a minimum.
And some of them are scared. Like, I know trying to teach patients, they're like, I have to inject that, and it's like, it's not that bad. Like, okay, we'll walk through this. Let's do water. Like, let's just try this. And just spending the time and giving them some comfort may be the difference of them using their insulin or not using their insulin, or feeling comfortable with it. So
good point.
Yeah.
Because right there in your face, be like, yeah, I got it.
Oh yeah.
And then they go home and then they don't do it. And we talk about adherence a lot. When I was faculty at University of Central Florida, we talked a lot about adherence versus compliance. And adherence it's different, right?
Different. Yeah.
And so when we talk about adherence to a pharmaceutical regimen, getting customer buy-in, because patients are customers, is so important. And if you don't spend that time with them and then they go off, then you don't know what's happened, if it's working or not working.
Yeah.
So.
And having that relationship, I feel, is pretty important to know that, because some patients that aren't going to take twice-a-day meds. Being able to understand some of the patients why, you can have a better conversation with them as to, hey, this blood pressure is going to help you because you'll be around for your grandkids in a couple of years, or being able to know the dynamics in their life. This patient may not be compliant with this, so I can go back and call a provider and say, there's no way this patient can adhere to this protocol. Can we switch to something else?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do adherence and having that open dialogue, and not just the yeah conversation, is critical for making them, you guys working together to buy in to improve health, because otherwise they're just going to go, yep, I'll take it, and they leave, and
you pick it up and it sits up there, and
who knows what happens.
They call you 6 months down the road and they go, Danny, Dr. John there? Yeah. Oh, well, I started feeling this way, and I took the last 3 that were in my bottle that I had left over from March 1972.
Yeah.
Right?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. They're like, I felt this, I just felt it last month, and then you're like, it was like 4 months ago.
Yeah, right?
So, yeah.
What do you think? What questions do you have? We've left you out of this
Sorry.
one. We're just
Sorry.
like we're like in the zone. We're in the functional medicine zone here.
I think it's awesome that, I feel like we're pretty similar in the way that we take care of our patients.
Yes.
I'm sorry. But is there like one tidbit that you'd like to give the audience as to some health fact that you kind of enjoy?
I think one of the tidbits that I find interesting, that I think most people take for granted, is how important muscle mass is. I do competitive weightlifting now. after years of playing sports, and I've gotten into competitive weightlifting, and it's been eye-opening to see how important muscle mass is in just as you age. Most people think, running and cardio and everything is great, but a couple days a week of like lifting, and it doesn't have to be heavy lifting, it's relative to everybody. It could be body weight. Yeah, it could
In the corner.
Oh yeah. It could be body weight, it could be bands, it could be lightweight. It doesn't have to be anything heavy, but just adding a small amount of muscle mass can do a huge amount to your whole body and your whole health. And I think a lot of people take for granted, they think they need to be smaller, and smaller doesn't always equate to healthier sometimes. So I think adding a little bit of muscle doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, and so, we talk about that, and I think if you look at it, regenerative medicine, anti-aging medicine, a lot of that focus is, trying to keep you young and do it. So that gets into some of the things that, a lot of those type of approaches that can involve compounding pharmacists, because you just can't find it in mass manufacturing for various reasons, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, if, like you said, whether it's heavyweight or lighter weights, it's something to focus on: mass, nutrition, right? Really just doing all those things that we should have been doing, and not focusing so much on the, I look in the mirror and I'm a size whatever. And so it's interesting. I keep my same workout regimen. Not quite. I don't work out like I did when I was actively playing rugby every weekend, right? But I go through periods where I play about 4 tournaments a year. As a company, we're doing 5Ks to support, them. But it's a run walk, so there's not that constant, pounding, if you will. And but I worked on my nutrition the past 2 years, and I've been playing rugby for a long time. And when I was in college, in the early 90s, I was playing rugby at about 220. And so I play rugby now at around 195, 200. And but I'm so much healthier than I was back then. And it's interesting, I kept that 220 for so many years, but I had decreased muscle mass, but I still had the weight.
I see. Yeah.
And so then I changed my nutrition, I changed how I worked out.
Yeah.
And so my resistance training was a lot different, a little bit lesser weight, not trying to, so I didn't hurt, and then things started to shape up a little bit more. So I like that. Yeah, muscle mass.
Yeah, I just think it's like one of those things, and so many people focus on, obviously, like I said, always being smaller, and that sometimes for people that means not proper nutrition, choosing low fat products or low carb diets and all the fad diets. And I think just learning to eat properly, and that helps with being able to be stronger. And a lot of people take for granted that you need it to, if you fall, be able to get yourself off the floor. Like for some people, pick kids up, bring groceries in, or whatever it is.
Or keep from falling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
when talking about muscle mass, does protein play a big part?
It does. You definitely need to make sure that you are eating a protein. I usually say protein with every meal, and a quality protein would be better, but it doesn't, at least protein, and it doesn't, there's like calculations for exact amounts, but I just think a handful of protein every meal is easy to do, and you don't have to have a scale, you don't have to count anything, just make sure you have protein with your meals. So it does.
I think the big thing is, like we focus on with our patients, is make sure we have the right kind of fats, and protein, and eat your veggies, right? Your colors, right?
Eat your colors.
Eat your colors.
Yeah.
And if it's white, kind of avoid it, but for some people that's very overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
And it's been really humbling to learn from our patients about how overwhelming that could be. It's just like how something so simple is just not simple. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
And so and look, I have a Hispanic background. if I was to tell you that, I was only going to eat rice once a week, and I only eat rice once a week because it has a high glycemic index. I loved your post the other
thanks.
day, right, with what to eat first, beforehand.
Yeah.
Amazing, because we eat sushi once a week, period. Now, about once every 45 to 60 days, I'll make black beans and rice, and because I'll eat my Spanish food, have some of my culture, but I don't eat that a lot because it's not good fats, and it's high glycemic index. This is why it's not uncommon for people of Hispanic heritage or African American heritage to have higher incidences of diabetes and these kind of things, and it's because of the nutrition.
Yeah.
So here we talk a lot about fuel instead of diets.
Yes.
So what kind of fuel do you take? And we talk about increase in movement versus exercise. And so get up and move it. Matt, did you post it?
I posted it today.
Yeah, yeah, on movement. And so that's why the dumbbells and the kettlebells are right there. It's just so like throughout the day, in between patients, if someone wants to just grab something and move, whether it's walk back and forth, do a wall squat or something like that. It's just let's not sit down on our can all day, because we can, and we're very much like you here, where we're perfectionists. We got that obsessive compulsive kind of thing going on, where if we're not taking care of a patient right then we're in the literature and we're reading and we're looking something up and we're planning something, and so we forget about ourselves. And so I liked how you talked about setting an example for others, and I think we miss that in healthcare sometimes.
I do, and I feel like so many people, you kind of referenced it earlier, that they hold healthcare providers that they have it at this certain level and they have everything together, and I feel like it's not, you don't have to have it all together, but it's just all these little pieces that need to be put together, and I think it's all little things. Most people feel like they have to be in a structured gym, 4 walls, doing dumbbell curls or back squats or whatever it is, cardio for 30 minutes, and there's this regimented what they're supposed to be doing, when it really is simple, of like you said, simple, maybe not easy, but making sure you're just moving, and not sitting for 8 hours, walking up, taking the stairs, whatever you can do. Their diet, little changes can make a huge difference. And it doesn't have to be this like, I eat 4 grams of carbs plus 15 grams of protein, or whatever the number is that they've calculated, or this many calories, that they're quality calories, they're quality food. And I think it's just these little things, and it's not this overall absolutely have to be perfect and regimented every single day, because most people, I feel like they think they have to have it all together to start, and it's really just these small changes, little by little, that you can make that add up over time. So
progress, not perfection. Right. So what else can you think about there, young lady?
I've just been enjoying the conversation.
She's just like, I hope I'm like that when I get to their age.
Exactly. But what is interesting is that one of your Instagram posts that he referenced is that you should eat your vegetables before your carbs, is what you mentioned. And I used to always eat my vegetables last. I'd eat my dinner. I'd eat like my steak and rice, for example. I'd eat it, and then I would have like my bowl of peas last. And I thought, I'm eating my vegetables, it's healthy. But when I saw that, I'm like, that's very interesting, because I never did that. So now I'm like, I'll eat my bowl of peas, and then I'll have my meal.
So I kind of always, I do a plate thing for me. And so I pretty much have half a plate of veggies. And then I have like a quarter of meat. Right. And that's pretty much it, and so, but my veggie could be like a sweet potato. It could be a carbohydrate in it. It's not always, like a green leafy veggie. Right. But it's usually those two things, and then a fruit for a snack. And I usually wait to about 20 or 30 minutes after I eat, because that's usually when a desire to have something sweet comes on, and I don't drink alcohol, so that part's easy for me. But I still want that reward. And it's a reward for me. I'm like Pavlov's law right here. And my wife's just like, look, let's have this and that, and I I eat whatever fruit looks good and in season.
In season,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I try to keep it organic, so get away from the dirty dozen kind of
Yeah.
thing when at all possible. You know, people often talk about how expensive it is to eat healthy, and it doesn't have to be, but you do, you know, do what's best for you and, you know, the best you can.
The best you can. Yeah,
Right?
it's like you
And
can.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And we still need to do that. We need to go shopping and videotape shopping and how to
Yeah.
show people how to grocery shop.
Oh yeah, like
because-
shop the outside.
Yeah,
my
you know,
favorite rule.
yeah, it's you know, and it's so that part's simple, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's but walking down as soon as you walk down that aisle, it's like temptation.
It's like,
man.
oh, well, where's everything?
You know, it's
Yeah.
just like, ooh.
That looks
and
so
then
good.
and then you maybe read the label and you're just like, oh,
Ooh.
yeah. We'll put that,
Put that back.
put that back right there. And so, well, awesome. Well, I think it's been a long conversation. And I want to talk about microbiome with you.
We got so
you know,
much.
I hope you'll, you know, come back
I would love
and join
it.
us,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll just kind of pick a topic instead of
Perfect.
just general
Just-
Yeah.
chit chat, right?
No,
Which
I
I think
love
is
it.
good and healthy. But maybe we'll focus on something like microbiome. We can focus on different things.
Yeah. I
You
love
know,
that idea.
my favorite thing to talk about microbiome is I like my beet test, and it's where I have people cook beets with coconut oil
Yeah.
and then eat them and get to watch how long it takes their
Takes this-
system to clear out, right?
Interesting.
And that is a very cost-effective way to determine your transient time,
Oh,
so
yeah,
you
that
don't
makes
have to
sense.
spend a $600 stool test.
Yeah. I mean, you got a stool test right there.
Right there, bam,
Boom.
right? I
Right.
mean, there's 28 trillion bacteria in your gut. It's not like we're going to test for every single one of those, so that's kind of tough.
Yeah.
And not everybody can afford it.
No.
But at $3.99,
And figuring out how to cook a beet. Roasted.
roasted,
The best.
Roasted. 425 wrapped in aluminum foil, just like a baked potato,
Yep.
right in there. So,
So yummy.
It's so yummy, and then I use the greens for my salad.
I love.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Great carrots too.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Tops.
That's
Perfect.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure.
It
Thank
was
you.
a blast.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for taking time.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Danny,
Thank you for coming.
you're amazing.
Thanks.
I appreciate you setting everything up, and I look
Thanks,
forward to
Danny.
seeing who you bring next.